Part 10. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Len. Chapter 91. Ji Qingxiu smiled and continued. Your Highness, you don't have to worry, because Kang Yu dynasty will send 2 semi-saints and 1 saint-level strongman to command the army. This way, it is enough to ensure that after the Qin dynasty is defeated, the saints in the Qin dynasty's ancestral mausoleum will not be able to take action. Even if they want to take action, Your Highness doesn't need to worry. With the saints of the Kang Yu dynasty here, they dare not act rashly. After all, they also know that once the battle begins, their lifespans cannot be spent at all, and the final outcome can only be death. No saint is willing to pay such a price. Listening to Ji Qingxiu's words, Zhang Luoxin's heart was finally moved. What she was most worried about was indeed those saint-level strongmen. The North Territory lacks the most top-notch combat power, which is a flaw that she cannot solve in a short time. If it weren't for this, she would have rebelled long ago. Why wait until now? If the top combat power of the Saint realm cannot take action, then she will be confident that she can easily take down Dakin with conventional combat power. Zhang Luoxin thought seriously for a while, and finally made up his mind. He clenched his white jade hands fiercely, looked up at Ji Qingxiu, and said in a deep voice. Okay, I agree to this cooperation. Ji Qingxiu's mouth curved more and more intensely when she heard this. She stood up, walked to Zhang Luoxin's side, lowered her voice and smiled. Your Highness Zhang is so happy. Then I wish us a happy cooperation. However, Zhang Luoxin took a step back without a sound, and said. But I have a condition. After breaking through Chang'an City, the Kang Yu dynasty must not invade the northern border and must retain the 13 counties in the northern border. This is her bottom line. Ji Qingxiu nodded slightly and chuckled. Of course, Your Highness, don't worry, we will not seize control of the northern border. Okay, I hope you can keep your promise, otherwise the northern border is not easy to bully. Zhang Luoxin's eyes turned cold. Xie Qingxiu pursed her lips and smiled. We in the Kang Yu dynasty have never dared to underestimate the north. The two women looked at each other calmly, and the atmosphere gradually solidified, as if the air was frozen. In the end, Zhang Luoxin looked away first and said lightly. In this case, then this matter is settled. I will send troops in 3 days and lift the restrictions on the north. Xie Qingxiu nodded. Well, then I won't bother you, Your Highness. Goodbye. She bowed and turned away. Xuanhuan of Xuanhuan Kingdom looked at Zhang Luoxin, and a touch of fiery color flashed in his eyes. He grinned and said, I heard that the fairy Luoxin is stunningly beautiful and talented. Today I see that her reputation is well deserved. I am Xuanhuan, the 7th prince of the Qianyuan dynasty. Get lost. Before Xuanhuan finished speaking, Zhang Luoxin spit out a word coldly. Then, she waved her sleeves, and a rainbow light whizzed out, hitting Xuanhuan's chest directly. Boom. Accompanied by a muffled sound, Xuanhuan flew out of the flying boat like a kite with a broken string. Finally, he fell heavily into the lake several miles away, causing a large splash of water. When the water waves dissipated, Xuanhuan's figure was revealed. He was seen with disheveled hair, messy clothes, pale face, and suddenly spit out several mouthfuls of blood, looking extremely embarrassed. His face was pale and full of shock and anger. Obviously, he didn't expect Zhang Luoxin to suddenly attack without any warning. Zhang Luoxin. You are bullying too much. Xuanhuan climbed up in a panic and roared. If you want to die, I don't mind sending you away. Zhang Luoxin's words were extremely cold, emotionless, and suffocating with murderous intent. Hearing this, Xuanhuan trembled all over, and a trace of fear appeared on his face. This woman is simply crazy. Xuanhuan took a deep breath and gritted his teeth and said, I'll remember you. I'll make you pay. After leaving a word, Xuanhuan left in a hurry with his two subordinates. Zhang Luoxin restrained her breath and her eyes were cold. Then, she turned around and returned to her closed room. Looking at the two spirit tablets placed in the secret room, Zhang Luoxin was stunned and muttered to herself. Father, Qi Lao, is it right or wrong for me to do this? If you were still here. Dakan. Chang'an City, inside the palace. Imperial Garden. Stupid and stupid Lord of Dakan, what do you want to do to this girl's mouth? Oh no, no, I don't want to wear this. MMM. In front of a palace, a girl in a red skirt held her head with both hands, curled up in a chair, and struggled hard. However, the resistance was ineffective. Qin Mu clapped his hands, looked at the masterpiece in front of him, and nodded with satisfaction. It's much quieter now. The girl in the red dress had a small ball stuffed into her pink cherry mouth, making her unable to speak. She could only stare at Qin Mu with a pair of fierce phoenix eyes, her beautiful face flushed red, tears in her eyes. Qin Mu ignored her gaze and said lightly. You are not allowed to speak these days. When you know you are wrong, I will forgive you. He originally thought that the girl would change her words and realize her mistakes after kneeling for a day and a night, but who knew that this guy had no memory at all. In front of Yunyaner and other concubines, he kept calling him stupid on the left and stupid on the right. Still looking like a spoiled young lady. Qin Mu was very angry. He was going to teach this little phoenix a lesson. Let her know who is the master. Tsundere is a disease and needs to be cured. Woo! Woo! The girl shook her head desperately and struggled hard, but no matter how hard she tried, it was still useless. Woo woo woo! The girl in the red skirt shook her head again and again to express her protest. Qin Mu chose to ignore it directly. Seeing this scene, Long Xiao on the side couldn't help shrinking her head and said obediently, Daddy, Xiao is very obedient, Xiao will massage your legs. As she said that, she ran to Qin Mu's feet, squatted down, and used her soft and boneless little hands to massage Qin Mu's legs. That obedient look was completely different from before. Qin Mu glanced at Long Xiao, touched her little head, and praised, Xiao is still sensible. I didn't expect that punishing this little phoenix would actually serve as a warning to others. Long Xiao raised her pink face and smiled innocently, Xiao is the most obedient. Qin Mu enjoyed Xiaoxiao's leg massage, and a mysterious arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. Since Xiao is so obedient, are you willing to help the master? Long Xiao was stunned when he heard the words, what help? Aren't you a dragon? I'm a little angry now. Come and spray some water to cool me down. Long Xiao blinked, and her big beautiful eyes were full of big doubts. But soon, she knew what cooling down meant. 3 days later. Dressed in military uniform, Zhang Luoxin, who was heroic and valiant, walked out of the flying boat, with a solemn face, and said in a deep voice, the whole army is in formation. Attack Chang'an City. Boom! With the deafening sound of war drums and horns, the army assembled. Flags fluttered, swords and spears stood in rows, and armor clanged. The vast and solemn momentum came like a tidal wave, making people tremble and their breathing stagnate. Zhang Luoxin stood on the top of the flying boat, with a green sword rainbow rising into the sky, pointing to Chang'an City in the distance. Let's go. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 92. Boom. The earth trembled, and the iron hooves of various strange beasts trampled through the void, rolling like a tide. As the army marched, smoke and dust filled the sky. Hundreds of thousands of troops were pressing forward like black clouds, overwhelmingly advancing. Wherever it passed, whether ordinary people or powerful monks, they all fled and looked invincible. Zhang Luoxin stood on the flying boat, looking into the distance. Although Chang'an City is behind Jiangnan County, this is only from a macro perspective. If we look at the actual situation, the distance between the two is still very far. After all, the Qin dynasty was too big. A mortal can hardly complete 1/10 of the distance in his lifetime. Even if it is an ordinary monk, if he wants to travel throughout the entire Qin dynasty without the help of teleportation formations, he will definitely waste his whole life. Zhang Luoshan withdrew his gaze, lowered his head slightly, and looked at the strategic planning map beside him. In the past 3 days, she had completed planning the army's attack route. According to their marching speed, it would take half a month at the fastest to reach Chang'an City. And this is when the journey is smooth and without resistance. However, Zhang Luoshan was not in a hurry. She even deliberately took the attack route farther away. Instead of fighting all the way forward, we first captured some surrounding small towns. It eroded away step by step, and finally completely isolated Chang'an City, leaving Chang'an City in a state of isolation and helplessness. Only in this way will it be more conducive for the subsequent army to suppress the territory and completely destroy the foundation of Deqin. Zhang Luoshan's eyes were deep and full of coldness. Han Jun, I want to see how you should deal with the fact that you have completely lost the support of the people. She will definitely go with the general trend and attack Chang'an City with an unrivaled attitude. Zhang Luoshan thought for a moment and raised his palm slightly. Suddenly an adjutant came over respectfully. The general is here. Send scouts to investigate the surrounding situation. Once the enemy dispatches troops and generals, be sure to report them in time. Zhang Luoshan calmly ordered. In addition, order the entire army to speed up and strive to reach Jiangzhou County tonight. Jiangzhou County was one of the top 10 counties in the Qin dynasty. It was rich in resources, prosperous products, and the annual taxes were an astonishing amount of wealth. And the most important thing is that Jiangzhou County also has a super large teleportation formation that can directly reach other counties and cities in Deccan. This type of super large teleportation formation is extremely rare. Only the top 10 counties in Great Qin can place it, not even Jiangnan County has it. If they capture Jiangzhou County, it will be equivalent to grabbing the throat of the Qin dynasty. Zhang Luoshan's goal is very clear, which is to capture Jiangzhou County before the Faint King is ready. Here. The adjutant took the order and retreated, while Zhang Luoshan slowly closed his eyes and rested his mind. This expedition was of vital importance, related to the life and death of hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the northern border, so she had to carefully consider every detail. Zhang Luoshan does not allow any accidents. At the same time, Kangyu Dynasty, in the pavilion in the middle of the lake in the Imperial Garden. Xie Hong'ai, wearing an iconic red dress, sat lazily on a stone chair, holding a wine glass in her delicate hands and taking a sip. Her beautiful cheeks were glowing with a seductive crimson color, making her look delicate and charming. A pair of autumn-like beautiful eyes lacks the majesty of those in the court, and has a bit of gentleness and charm unique to women, which makes people's hearts beat. Your Majesty, why don't you let me lead troops to attack Deqin? Xie was holding a wine bottle at the side. After much hesitation, she couldn't help but ask. The Kangyu dynasty's army has already marched towards the northern territory, and it is estimated that it has now entered the northern territory. But what Xie didn't expect was that Xie Hong'ai didn't let her go on the expedition, but kept her in the palace. This made her confused about Xie Hong'ai's idea. According to usual practice, she should go out in person. This will help her accumulate reputation in the military and lay the foundation for her future accession to the throne. But what Xie was worried about at this time was not this, but that she had to go to the front line. Only in this way can we understand the movements of the army and report to the master in real time. Your cooperation with the Northern Territory this time has broken the deadlock between Kangyu and the Northern Territory of Great Qin for many years. It is already a great achievement. There is no need to go out to make meritorious deeds. Xuanhuan put down the wine glass and said with a slight smile. But. Xuanhuan frowned and opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something. But before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Xuanhuan. Okay, Qianxiu, I know what you are thinking. Ji Hongyi reached out and patted Xuanhuan's shoulder, sighing softly. You want to improve your reputation in the military and overwhelm the discordant voices in the DPRK. I don't object to your idea, but I don't want you to take risks. I regretted the last time I sent you to Daqin. Originally, I just wanted you to practice, but I didn't expect that I almost made you unable to come back. This time you just stay here honestly. Others will take care of sending troops to Daqin. There was a look of concern in Xuanhuan's beautiful eyes, and her tone was full of guilt. She originally thought that the Lord of Great Qin was fatuous and incompetent and would not have the guts to refuse the Kangyu dynasty's request. But she realized she had made a mistake. His Majesty. Seeing Xuanhuan's sincere eyes, the tip of Xuanhuan's nose felt a little sore, her eyes were red, and she was extremely moved. Of course, she was pretending. She was still very anxious, and wished she could go to the battlefield right now to report the battlefield's movements and situation to her master. But Xuanhuan knew that she could not continue to hold on. Otherwise, there would be the danger of being exposed. Okay, don't cry, you are the most beautiful woman in our Kangyu dynasty, how can you be like a resentful woman? Seeing Xuanhuan's tearful look, Xuanhuan couldn't help laughing and shook her head. Hearing this, Xuanhuan's pretty face turned red, and she whispered. Your Majesty is making fun of me again, obviously you are the most beautiful woman in Kangyu. Xuanhuan shook her head and smiled, okay, stop making trouble, you should also try this spiritual fruit wine. She picked up the wine bottle on the table and handed it to Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan took the wine bottle obediently and drank it all. Your Majesty, then I will go back to practice after drinking, Xuanhuan put the wine glass on the table and said respectfully. There was no point for her to stay here any longer, so she might as well go back and report to her master earlier. This way she could still hear her master's voice. Xuanhuan nodded lightly, go. Xuanhuan bowed, then turned, and left with lotus steps. Xuanhuan looked at Xuanhuan's back as she left, and the smile on her face gradually faded. The first reason why she didn't let Xuanhuan lead the troops to Daqin was naturally because she was worried about her safety. After all, even Tianjia couldn't calculate the danger of Daqin. The second reason was that Xuanhuan still felt that Xuanhuan had changed since she escaped from Daqin. Combined with the strange runes that appeared on her soul lamp when Xuanhuan was in trouble, Xuanhuan felt that something seemed to be wrong. But she couldn't be sure, it was just a feeling. Letting Xuanhuan go to the northern border to discuss cooperation was also a means of testing her. Xuanhuan successfully completed the task, and it seemed that there should be no problem at first glance. But Xuanhuan still had some indescribable feelings in her heart, so she decided to keep Xuanhuan by her side. This way, even if something happened, she could deal with it in time. I hope, it's just my illusion. Xuanhuan sat in front of the stone table, holding the jade cup in her hand, staring with her beautiful eyes, and whispering softly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 93. Why don't you go to Mr. Ge for a fortune telling? This idea suddenly came to Xuanhuan's mind. But as soon as this thought emerged, she was thrown out of her mind. Mr. Ge probably hasn't recovered yet, so it's better not to disturb him. Xuanhuan shook her head, gave up the idea, got up and returned to the palace. Tianjitzi, who was recovering from his injuries in the Tower of Babel, suddenly felt something. He raised his head and looked somewhere in the void, frowned, and murmured to himself. Strange, why do I feel like I've escaped a disaster? He subconsciously wanted to throw the tortoise shell and make a divination. But then he realized that the tortoise shell had already broken into pieces before he could refine a new one. Oh, that's all, in my current state, I probably can't do much. Tianjia sighed, ignored it, and concentrated on healing the injury. And the other side. After Xiaqiangxiu left, she went straight back to the princess mansion in the imperial city. After returning to the princess mansion, she washed up first. Then he sat on the bed, preparing to report to his master what happened today. Master, the slave is back. She sat cross-legged on the bed with her eyes closed, her face full of piety, and she said with great respect. At the same time, Qin Mu, who was enjoying Long Xiaoxiu's water-spraying show in the imperial garden, also received the news about Qingxiu in an instant. Oh? What's the news? Qin Mu replied calmly. Go back to master, Xuanhuan didn't let me lead the troops to go on an expedition. I don't know the movement and location of the army now. Xiaqiangxiu replied respectfully, with a trace of guilt in her eyes, as if she felt guilty for failing to complete the task. It doesn't matter, then you just continue to stay in Kangyu. If there is any movement in the court, you can just report it. Qin Mu's indifferent voice resounded in Xiaqiangxiu's mind. In fact, Qin Mu didn't care about the so-called army. What he cared about more was the news in Kangyu's court. After all, for him, the real threat is the hidden heritage and strength of the Kangyu dynasty. If this information can be clearly grasped, then De Qin will be completely invincible. Its master, I know. Xiaqiangxiu breathed a sigh of relief and replied respectfully. After Qin Mu explained a few more words, he cut off the contact. Huh. Xiaqiangxiu breathed a sigh of relief and slowly opened his eyes, his beautiful eyes flowing with an inexplicable light. Although the master does not dislike my low cultivation level, I have to speed up. Xiaqiangxiu secretly made up her mind. What she urgently needs now is to improve her strength so that she can better help her master. Xiaqiangxiu took a deep breath, re-entered the cultivation state, and worked hard to improve her cultivation. De Qin. Royal Garden. If you spray the water higher, you are still a descendant of a true dragon. Spraying such a small amount of water is simply an insult to your status. Qin Mu was leaning on the soft couch, supporting his chin with one hand, squinting at Long Xiaoxiao, and scolding him casually. Daddy, there is enough water. I'm afraid the pool will be flooded. Long Xiaoxiao pouted, a little aggrieved. She is a descendant of a true dragon, not a fountain. Qin Mu shook his head, sat back and put his hands behind his head, feeling a little bored. To be honest, living a life of luxury and beauty every day is indeed a bit boring. Is this the trouble of being an emperor? Qin Mu sighed slightly. Otherwise, go and have fun in the last dynasty. As soon as this thought appeared, Qin Mu was startled and quickly dismissed it. What kind of court? Could it be that the Hanjun got too comfortable and started to have random thoughts? This idea is simply too dangerous and must be avoided. Qin Mu wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. It was so dangerous that he almost became Ming Jun. So since you can't go to court, what else can you have fun with? How about going to a house for fun? Thinking of this, Qin Mu's eyes lit up slightly. This can be done. Moreover, no newcomers have come to Yeting Palace for a long time, and he is almost tired of playing. You can also take the opportunity to inspect the preparations for the Immortal Palace and see how they are going. Qin Mu stood up and stretched. Xiao Xiao. He waved. Long Xiao Xiao blinked his big eyes, immediately put down his skirt, and ran over. What's wrong, Daddy? Qin Mu touched Long Xiaoxiu's soft hair and said. Let's go and do bad things with me. Long Xiao suddenly became excited. "Daddy, what are we going to do this time?" she asked. "Go and ransack the house." Qin Mu smiled lightly and walked out with Long Xiao. Searching the house, Long Xiao tilted his head, seeming to understand. Searching means taking other people's things and turning them into your own. Qin Mu patiently explained to Long Xiao. "Oh, that's what it means," Xiao understands. Long Xiao suddenly understood and waved his fist vigorously, his big eyes full of excitement. "In the future, you must also learn to ransack homes and snatch all those good things back and make them our own. Do you understand?" Qin Mu's words were serious and thoughtful, and he taught earnestly and seductively. "Well, Xiao understands." After listening to Qin Mu's teachings, Long Xiao nodded and agreed obediently. Qin Mu was very proud of his success in turning a kind-hearted little girl into a black-bellied one. At this moment, Rong Xiao suddenly tugged at Qin Mu's sleeve, blinked her big eyes, and said in a flattering manner, "Daddy, can you take Sister Fengju out with you?" Qin Mu raised his eyebrows slightly, a little surprised. "Oh? Why?" "Because, Xiao feels that Sister Fengju is a little pitiful. She hasn't spoken to me for a long time. If it were Xiao, she would definitely go crazy." Long Xiao lowered her head, put her two little hands together, and said weakly. The two delicate dragon horns glowed with a bright light under the lights, making Long Xiao look even more lovely and charming. Seeing this scene, Qin Mu couldn't help but smile. This girl usually looks heartless, but now she is so gentle and considerate, which is really rare. "Okay, since Xiao has begged for mercy, I will temporarily spare her." Qin Mu rubbed Long Xiao's head and said with a chuckle. "Yeah. Long live daddy." Long Xiao's face flushed, and she happily hugged Qin Mu. She was worried that she would anger Qin Mu and be punished by him. She didn't expect that she could get away with it just by acting cute and coquettish. This surprised her a little. Perhaps it was because Long Xiao and Fengju were both hatched by the rewards given by the system, and there was a little bond between them. So Long Xiao felt a little bit of pity when she saw Fengju being punished, so she begged for her. Soon, Qin Mu removed the shackles from Fengju's mouth. The little phoenix showed a smile as if she had been reborn. She looked at Qin Mu, pouted her pink lips, snorted proudly, and then looked at Long Xiao gratefully. Long Xiao giggled, pulled Fengju's wrist affectionately, and skipped towards the door. Qin Mu shook his head and smiled, then followed. "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 94. Qin Mu changed into his casual clothes and quickly left the palace with Fengju and Long Xiao. He did not attract anyone's attention, and he did not bring any guards with him. This time he was still a private visit in disguise. Since Chang'an City had a complete air ban and no flying was allowed, all the lively places were concentrated on the ground. The street was extremely prosperous, with pedestrians flowing continuously. This Chang'an Street was 500 or 600 meters wide, and the elders could not see the end. There were shops on both sides, including restaurants, tea houses, brothels, casinos, shops, and auctions. The customs of various places gathered here, which made people dazzled. There were also many mobile stalls on the street, selling all kinds of goods, and the hawking sounds came one after another, showing a prosperous scene. The shops on both sides of the road were also decorated extremely luxuriously and tall, selling high-level monsters, spiritual weapons, martial arts, elixirs and other things. Even in some shops, there are suspended auction tables, which are displaying all kinds of rare treasures, which are priceless and attract many powerful people to compete for them. Looking at this lively scene, Long Xiao's eyes widened, and she was overwhelmed and looked around curiously. "Wow, it's really lively here." Long Xiao was overjoyed, staring at the stalls on the roadside, and then looked up at Qin Mu. "Dad, can we start to confiscate the house now?" Qin Mu couldn't help laughing when he heard it. "No hurry, let's go shopping first." Long Xiao pouted, a little disappointed. "Okay, then Dad, you must remember to confiscate the house." Qin Mu smiled and nodded. It seems that Long Xiao has listened to everything. It is worthy of being taught by him. It is really teachable. Feng Zhu curled her lips and muttered to herself, "The foolish lord of the great Qin, you have corrupted the children." Qin Mu was very sharp-eyed, and even Feng Zhu's muttering could not escape his ears, and his eyes immediately squinted. "Xiaozhuer, what are you mumbling about again?" Feng Zhu shuddered and quickly shut up. She was afraid that Qin Mu would stuff her mouth again. Qin Mu snorted and ignored her. He looked around and was not in a hurry to find a target for house seizure. He strolled leisurely on the street. Although Jiangnan County had been lost, the war had not yet spread here. Chang'an City was still prosperous and lively, with people coming and going and noisy. After all, no matter what will happen tomorrow, we still have to live today. The three of them walked side by side, shuttling through the streets of Chang'an, attracting countless people to look at them sideways. Qin Mu was dressed in a white brocade robe, with a jade pendant on his waist. He was majestic, handsome, and unrestrained, and was completely a nobleman. Feng Zhu was wearing a fiery red dress, with a stunning figure and a pair of beautiful eyes. Long Xiao was wearing a purple dress, with dragon horns on her head, and a slim figure, cute and beautiful, like an exquisite porcelain doll. A man with a heroic and elegant temperament walking side by side with two stunning beauties was really pleasing to the eye. Especially Feng Zhu's fairy-like appearance and Long Xiaoxiu's delicate figure, which made people unable to take their eyes away, immediately attracted many envious and jealous eyes. These eyes fell on Qin Mu, making him frown and scan the surroundings coldly. In an instant, whether it was the vendors on both sides of the street or the pedestrians on the roadside, they all trembled and dared not stare at the three people. Long Xiao didn't know what interesting he saw, so he jumped to the side and squatted on the ground looking left and right. "This box is so beautiful." Long Xiao stared at a box placed on a roadside stall, turned around, and said to Qin Mu excitedly, "Dad, I want to confiscate this box." Qin Mu glanced at the box from a distance, and saw that it had a thick patina, smooth texture, simple and elegant shape, and quite a bit of charm. The lid of the box was inlaid with sparkling gems, which looked quite classy. Women can't refuse shiny things, it's true. He nodded, "Okay." Long Xiao smiled, then she looked at the stall owner and said loudly, "Pack this thing for me, I'm confiscating it." The stall owner was stunned, his eyes full of confusion. This girl looks like a fairy descending to the earth, but her brain should not be normal, right? Why is it so hard to understand what she said? Shouldn't a normal person say that I bought it? What does "I confiscated it" mean? The stall owner smiled bitterly and said helplessly, "Girl, you see it is clearly written on this box that it requires 2,000 spirit stones to buy it." Long Xiao blinked her watery eyes and was a little confused when she heard it. "What do you mean by buy?" The stall owner. Long Xiao reached out and patted the box, and said without question, "I said, this box, I'll confiscate it." The stall owner was speechless for a while. What a lovely little girl, what a pity. But seeing Long Xiaoxiu's serious face, he could only take out 2 spirit stones with a bitter face and hand them to Long Xiao. "Girl, take these 2 spirit stones, just think of them as a gift from me, and go look somewhere else, okay?" "Thank you." Long Xiao took the spirit stones and put them away happily. You're welcome," the stall owner shook his head and smiled. It really opened his eyes that there are still people in this world who don't understand the rules of buying and selling. Unexpectedly, after Long Xiao put away the spirit stone, he still didn't leave, and still said to him, "Give me this box as well." Stall owner: "No, girl, we can't be so careless in doing things. Do you want this box too? With so many people watching, didn't you see that I just said that this box would cost 2,000 spirit stones? Are you here to cause trouble on purpose?" Long Xiao Xiao didn't feel there was anything wrong with what he did, and continued, "Please help me wrap this box." The stall owner finally lost his patience. After a moment of silence, he took a deep breath and tried his best to calmly say, "Girl, here is a piece of high-grade defensive armor. It is a robe refined by a large section at worst, it is a low-level magical weapon of spiritual level. This set of defensive armor is enough to withstand a full blow from an average Purple Mansion Realm warrior. The price is extremely high, and 2,000 spirit stones are not expensive at all." The stall owner had a straight face and said in a deep voice, "Girl, please don't be so messy." Long Xiao Xiao blinked, and Qin Mu's words rang in his mind again. To ransack a home is to take other people's things and make them your own. The key point is to grab the word. At this moment, Long Xiao Xiao looked at the evil-looking stall owner in front of him and finally realized. It turns out that this is what Daddy meant when he asked me to ransack my house. Long Xiaoxiao's eyes showed a look of sudden realization. Just when she was about to show off her power, a rough scolding sound came from the front. Give way to me. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 95. Then there was a noisy sound of footsteps echoing through the street. Huh. Qin Mu frowned and looked in the direction of the sound. He saw several burly men running from the far end of the street, followed by a team of soldiers in neat armor. These people were fierce, holding swords, with a murderous look and a domineering look. Make way, make way." These burly men ran very fast and came close in a moment, pushing the pedestrians in front of them. "Ouch, what are you doing? Are you going to kill me?" The pedestrians were pushed and shoved to the ground, cursing. "Get out of the way, you are delaying my work, believe it or not, I will chop you to death." The leading man waved his arms impatiently, and a violent and powerful aura emanated from him. The originally crowded crowd quickly retreated and left an open road for the men. "You lowly people, get out of here if you're blocking the way." The leading man became even more arrogant when he saw this. He glanced at the people around him, and then fixed his eyes on Long Xiao Xiao. Long Xiao Xiao looked sweet, fair, and cute, just like a piece of egg white that had just been peeled. The leading man stared at Long Xiao Xiao with greedy and fiery eyes, and licked his lips with his tongue. He looked around Long Xiao Xiao and found that she seemed to be the only one there, and he immediately became bolder. "Hey, such a young girl dares to walk on the street, aren't you afraid of meeting bad guys? Come to your uncle, and your uncle will take you home." As he spoke, the leading man actually walked straight towards Long Xiao Xiao. Long Xiao Xiao blinked her big eyes, as if she was scared silly, and stood there motionless. The big man saw this and became more arrogant and presumptuous. He smiled obscenely and reached out to grab Long Xiao Xiao. "Little sister, don't be afraid. If you follow me, I promise you will have a good life, ha ha ha." Qin Mu's eyes were cold, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. However, before he made a move, he saw Feng Zhu's figure flashing and coming to Long Xiao Xiao. A pair of red eyes seemed to be burning with flames, and she stared at the big man indifferently, looking for death. The big man was startled by Feng Zhu's sudden roar, but soon recovered. Looking at Feng Zhu, whose beauty was no less than Long Xiao Xiao, the lust in his eyes became stronger. "Hey, here comes another little beauty with thorns. I just like." Before the big man finished speaking, Feng Zhu's momentum soared, and the whole street seemed to be burning with endless flames, burning every inch of air. The big man's face suddenly became ugly, and he felt a strong sense of oppression that suffocated him. He wanted to escape but couldn't move at all, and watched a blazing flame rushing towards him. The scorching heat caused his skin to crack rapidly, and the blood in his body seemed to boil. A look of fear appeared in his eyes, and he tried his best to fight back with his fate-changing technique, but it was still useless. The flame carried a terrifying destructive force, which instantly penetrated his protective spiritual power and landed on his chest. Bang! The big man's chest collapsed, his internal organs were all shattered, and his entire body was instantly burned to ashes by the flames. His soul floated in the void, and he roared with fear and resentment. No! Ah! The shrill screams pierced the sky and disappeared in the void in an instant. A wisp of ashes fell into the dust. This scene was too horrifying, and the onlookers all widened their eyes, full of fear. This girl, how could she be so strong? Qin Mu looked at Feng Zhu with relief in his eyes. Although this guy was usually very arrogant, he was still very grateful. Feng Zhu glanced around calmly, snorted coldly, and turned back to Long Xiaoxiao. At this moment, Long Xiaoxiao was holding the box, with excitement in her eyes. Now this box can belong to me, right? The stall owner was so scared that he was at a loss, his lips turned pale, how could he dare to object, and nodded repeatedly, okay, okay, you take it, you take it. Well, that's better. Long Xiaoxiao put the box away proudly, and then clapped his hands. He looked at the stall owner's other items and waved his hands, this, and that, I don't want these, pack up all the rest, I'm going to confiscate the house. Long Xiaoxiao pointed to the various ornaments, jade pendants, waist cards, and various shiny pill bottles on the stall, and said generously. After hearing what Long Xiaoxiao said, the stall owner was stunned on the spot, his eyes widened. He really came to confiscate the house? Now he understood that he had definitely met a tough guy today. The stall owner cried and begged, my dear lady, let's talk about this. You are too cruel. You should at least leave me one of these treasures. Long Xiaoxiao frowned, and Feng Zhu also looked at him coldly. The stall owner shuddered, with a bitter face, and wrapped up all the things and handed them to Long Xiaoxiao. Long Xiaoxiao weighed them and nodded with satisfaction, well, not bad, not bad. At this time, the accomplices of the big man who turned into ashes finally reacted and were furious. They rushed forward angrily and surrounded Long Xiaoxiao and Feng Zhu. Little bitch, you dare to kill our big brother, do you know who is behind us? You are so tired of living that you dare to commit murder in Chang'an City. You simply don't take His Majesty seriously. Listen to me, you two, kneel down and kowtow to confess your guilt immediately, otherwise only death awaits you. Everyone was talking at the same time, and their arrogance was high. Obviously, they were very confident in their side. Feng Zhu's eyes turned cold, and she was about to take action. At this time, a figure suddenly appeared behind her and patted her shoulder. Qin Mu looked at everyone and said lightly, who is behind you? Tell me. He was worried that he couldn't find a candidate for the house seizure, but he didn't expect the other party to come to him. One of the big men snorted coldly, raised his head and said loudly, stand still, don't wait for me to scare you after I say it. You say, I'm listening. Qin Mu smiled slightly and looked at the other party with interest. The big man sneered and said arrogantly. Listen carefully, the master behind us is Wang Xing, the Minister of Revenue and Minister of Rights, Lord Wang. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 96. After the big man finished speaking, he was afraid that Qin Mu didn't know, so he added another sentence. he is now fully responsible for the construction of the Qin Immortal Palace, and he has won the trust of His Majesty. We are the important officials in the court who are responsible for supervising the construction and transporting materials for the construction of Dakan Immortal Palace under your orders. You dare to kill important officials of the Qin dynasty in public in Chang'an City, and also try to steal materials to build the Immortal Palace. I advise you to arrest them as soon as possible. You'd better be wiser, kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake, and maybe you can save your life. His voice was loud and full of pride and arrogance, as if they were high-ranking princes and nobles. After hearing these words, the surrounding people and monks took a deep breath. What? It's actually Mr. Wang. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant and domineering. It turns out you have a strong backing. Oh, it's going to be troublesome this time. That is the Minister of the Ministry of Revenue. I heard that he is ready to build 10 palaces for His Majesty at his own expense in one breath. He is the official whom your Majesty admires most today. These young people are going to be in trouble. Everyone shook their heads, feeling that Qin Mu and the others were definitely doomed. Who is the Minister of the Ministry of Finance? His position in the Qin dynasty can be said to be the most powerful one in the world. With the stamp of his foot, the whole city of Chang'an can tremble. Not to mention that he recently became the Minister of Rights, and his power has skyrocketed. Even the Prime Minister wants to give him 3 points. How could an ordinary person provoke such a powerful minister? Oh! Minister of the Ministry of Finance, Qin Mu's eyes flashed with amusement. That's right, do you know you're afraid now? The big man raised his chin proudly. If you are wise, please kneel down and beg for mercy, otherwise you will never leave Chang'an City. Qin Mu laughed and shook his head. It turned out to be a subordinate of that guy Wang Xing. His status in the court has indeed risen a bit quickly recently, and it seems that it is starting to drift away. Even one of his subordinates dared to be so arrogant and domineering. Seeing Qin Mu's attitude, the big man was stunned for a moment, then became angry and shouted angrily. How dare you not even take our Lord Wang seriously? I think you are seeking death. Qin Mu smiled and suddenly asked with great interest, since you said you are important officials in the court, have you ever met the current emperor? When the big man heard this, a look of embarrassment suddenly appeared in his eyes. He hesitated for a moment before coughing dryly. Of course I have. We follow Mr. Wang and have to meet the Holy Spirit 3 times every day. So what does the emperor look like? Is he handsome? Qin Mu looked at them with a half-smile but continued to ask. Of course, the big man puffed up his chest and said with some pride, His Majesty is the only emperor of the Qin dynasty throughout the ages. Naturally, he has a handsome appearance, and extraordinary martial prowess. Oh, who is more handsome than me? Qin Mu continued to ask. The big man glanced at Qin Mu and curled his lips. You are worthy to be compared with His Majesty. Your Majesty is the bright moon in the sky, but you are at best dust on the ground. Hearing this, Feng Zhu and Long Xiaoxiao both had strange expressions on their faces, especially Long Xiaoxiao, who looked like he wanted to laugh but didn't dare, and his expression of suppressing laughter was really cute. And Qin Mu couldn't help laughing, raised his eyes and glanced at him, saying, It seems that you admire him very much because you praise him so much, right? The big man choked and was about to answer, but suddenly reacted. He's not here to answer questions, so why should he keep answering this person's questions? The big man glared at Qin Mu fiercely and said fiercely, Stop talking to me about these useless things. We will give you one last chance. Either kneel down and kowtow to beg for mercy, or go to the hall of hell to repent. Qin Mu sighed with emotion, It's been a long time since I heard someone dare to talk to me like this. The big man snorted coldly, What? Could it be that you still want to kill us? He knew that he was no match for these people, especially the girl in the fiery red dress, whose power of flames was extremely terrifying. These few of them together may not be opponents. But he didn't believe that these people would dare to attack him after he revealed his identity. Unless they don't want to live anymore. However, this possibility cannot be ruled out. The girl in the fiery red dress looks like a person with a hot temper. In order to avoid this situation from happening, the big man quickly added, "Master Wang will be here soon. His temper is not as good as ours. If you dare to hurt his men, he will never let you go. I advise you to resolve this matter quickly now, otherwise it won't be that simple when Mr. Wang arrives later." He threatened severely. The people watching on the side also sighed when they saw this scene. Now we are in trouble. These people have provoked Mr. Wang, the most popular person today, and they also beat one of Mr. Wang's subordinates to death. It is probably more serious than bad. Hey! These people are so young and so impulsive. Yes, if Mr. Wang intervenes, these people may be charged with treason. Hey, what should I do? I just saw that that girl is quite powerful. I wonder if her background can compete with Mr. Wang. I see hanging. Everyone was talking about it, their faces full of regret. However, some people were dissatisfied with this and even wanted to come forward to help Qin Mu and the others. Then Mr. Wang only knows how to flatter the horse, and has no real ability at all. He only flatters that foolish king. Yes, Great Qin was destroyed by these people. Hush, be silent. Lord Wang is here. I saw a gorgeous and exquisite carriage driving into the street. The carriage was pulled by a very rare snow-white beast. The carriage was carved with dragons and phoenixes, exuding a faint light, and the aura of a wealthy man burst out everywhere. The carriage stopped. A middle-aged man with gorgeous clothes, a plump figure, and a proud face walked out of it. He was none other than the secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Wang Xing. Seeing this, the big man hurriedly ran over. When he passed Qin Mu, he cursed in a low voice, "You boy, wait for me, Mr. Wang is already here, you are dead." Then the big man ran up to Wang Xing, bursting with snot and tears, crying at the top of his lungs. "Sir, you have to make the decision for us. Someone dares to commit murder on the streets of Chang'an City and kill important officials of the court." When Wang Xing heard this, he frowned and shouted angrily, "Dare to commit murder on the streets of Chang'an City? How audacious! I want to see who is so brazen." As he spoke, he stepped forward and looked around. Sure enough, he saw a young man standing behind the crowd with two maids, staring at him playfully. After seeing Qin Mu's appearance clearly, Wang Xing's pupils suddenly shrank like needles, his heart stopped, and he almost died on the spot. Qin Mu walked over, glanced lightly, and said in a joking tone, "What's wrong, Mr. Wang? Why are you suddenly sweating? At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Bulletin Leng. Chapter 97. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Wang Xing's body was stiff and his head was blank. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't even say a complete sentence. He even found it increasingly difficult to breathe, as if he had fallen into an abyss. His head was buzzing, and Wang Xing even suspected that he was hallucinating, because he actually saw His Majesty. "Shouldn't Your Majesty be standing in the palace having fun at this time? How come it came out? And he even had a conflict with his subordinates? Could it be that he got up from my concubine's bed just now?" Wang Xing felt huge waves in his heart, his legs were trembling and he almost knelt on the ground, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. But at this time, the big man came up to him without thinking about life and death, pointed at Qin Mu and cursed loudly, "How brave! Why don't you kneel down when you see our Lord Wang?" Then the whole big man turned around to please Wang Xing and complained humbly, "Sir, this guy killed our eldest brother in the street. You must make the decision for us." The big man cried while talking, as if he had suffered a great injustice. Wang Xing was shaken all over. He turned his head sharply to look at the big man, his eyes were bloodshot, and he roared with hatred. "Shut up!" Crack! He slapped him across the face, sending the big man flying several meters away, hitting the wall hard before sliding to the ground. The big man spurted out blood, and half of his cheek instantly swelled like a pig's head. And that slap made him completely stunned. He covered half of Lao Gao's swollen face and looked at Wang Xing in horror. "Sir, sir!" he shouted tremblingly, as if he didn't understand what was happening. At this moment, the others were stunned when they saw this, not knowing why. Didn't that Lord Wang come to support these people and avenge that big man? Why did you slap that big man first? Everyone's minds were filled with doubts. However, the next moment, a scene that shocked them even more appeared. "You idiot!" Wang Xing pointed at the big man's nose and yelled, "Open your dog eyes and let me take a closer look. That's His Majesty." Boom! After hearing this, everyone was shocked. Then Wang Xing's palms were trembling, and a look of horror appeared on his face. He quickly turned around and knelt in front of Qin Mu, his whole body shaking like chaff. Plop! His legs gave way and he knelt on the ground, his voice trembling as he said, "I am here to see your Majesty, and I respectfully welcome your Majesty." When he knelt down, everyone was completely confused. They were all dumbfounded on the spot, unable to say a word. "Your Majesty, your Majesty. Your Majesty actually visited the streets of Chang'an in person? How is this possible?" Everyone's eyes widened. Especially the big man who was beaten to the ground was so frightened that he peed his pants and sat down on the ground. His eyes almost popped out of his head, his face was full of shock and disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. "What? Your Majesty? This young man is actually the legendary emperor? His Majesty the Emperor actually wanders the streets? Did you have an argument with him on the street?" He felt like his mind was about to collapse. All of this went beyond common sense and subverted his three views. This was simply more absurd than in a dream. But it happened right under his nose. Qin Mu didn't even look at Wang Xing. He walked straight to the big man, looked down at him, and asked with a smile. "Let me ask you again, who is more handsome compared to me or the Emperor of Qin you have met?" The big man's face was dull and confused, and he couldn't reflect at all. At this time, everyone around them finally woke up and knelt down one by one, shouting in unison. "The common people bow to your Majesty." For a time, the people were shouting like a tsunami, and the sound was rolling, resounding through the clouds and shaking the sky. Although they often secretly cursed Qin Mu as a foolish king in private, when Qin Mu appeared in front of them, "You would never dare to say such a thing, or even think about it in your heart." "Just kidding, who dares to scold the emperor in front of him? You think life is too long, right?" The big man was already so frightened that he rolled his eyes and fainted. "Did you faint now?" Qin Mu shook his head, a little speechless, and had no interest in this kind of rubbish. Then he looked at Wang Xing, half smiling but not smiling. The subordinates trained by Mr. Wang are all talented people, and they speak well. When Wang Xing heard this, his body trembled, sweat dripped from his forehead, and he said in a trembling voice, "No. No, your Majesty, you have misunderstood. I don't know them at all. They are slandering me. You must not believe them." Qin Mu smiled lightly, "Really? I don't think so. Mr. Wang was quite majestic just now. I almost thought that this great Qin belonged to Mr. Wang." His voice was very soft, but Wang Xing's hair stood on end, as cold as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He explained eagerly, "Your Majesty, I don't know that your Majesty is coming today. I deserve death for my crime. Please forgive me." His voice was full of strong panic, and now he wished he could immediately crush the big man into ashes and make him completely disappear from Daqin. This reckless bastard dared to offend His Majesty the Emperor, and now he has even implicated him. Qin Mu smiled and said, "Since Lord Wang doesn't know these people, what's wrong with Lord Wang? What's more, how can I bear to punish Lord Wang? I am terrified. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your grace." Wang Xing breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Then he heard Qin Mu say, "But I am a little tired now. I wonder if I can go to Lord Wang's house to sit for a while." Wang Xing's heart was lifted up again in an instant, and a panic appeared on his face. My house is simple and I am afraid of neglecting Your Majesty." "Oh, it's okay, Lord Wang, you don't have to be polite. I just want to talk to you," Qin Mu said calmly. Wang Xing's heart skipped a beat, and cold sweat seeped out of his forehead again. "What's wrong with Lord Wang? Are you feeling unwell?" Qin Mu said with concern. No, Wang Xing squeezed out a few words tremblingly. He kowtowed hurriedly, "I obey your order." Then he took Qin Mu to his mansion. Qin Mu naturally took Feng Zhu and Long Xiaoxiao to sit in the luxurious carriage. On the way, Wang Xing kept wiping the cold sweat on his face with his sleeves. His heart was pounding, and he was very nervous. The more he thought about it, the more uneasy he felt. "What is Your Majesty doing in your house? Could it be? There are dozens of beautiful concubines in his house. If Your Majesty covets their beauty, what should he do?" Wang Xing's heart was cold and his face turned green. "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 98. "Master Wang, why did you stop suddenly? Keep walking." Qin Mu's faint questioning voice came from inside the carriage. "Oh, it's okay, Your Majesty, we are almost there." Wang Xing came to his senses and quickly urged the snow-white beast to continue moving forward. At the same time, he ordered an attendant to go back to his house to prepare. The attendant immediately understood and hurried back to the mansion. Wang Xing finally breathed a sigh of relief. And at this time, the common people and monks who were kneeling on the spot stood up and started a heated discussion after seeing Qin Mu leaving in Wang Xing's carriage. "It's so exciting. This is my first time to see the emperor of our great Qin. Yeah, I originally thought Lord Wang would put them in jail, but I didn't expect this would be the result. That big man was really miserable. He actually kicked the hardest iron plate in Daqin. Let's see if they dare to act as a scapegoat in the future. Don't worry, they will definitely not survive. They have caused so much trouble to Mr. Wang this time. Mr. Wang will never let them go. It's so dramatic. This reversal is so unexpected that people can't even imagine it. What a coward. I dared to think so. From the moment I saw His Majesty's wise, mighty, graceful and unparalleled temperament, I knew that his identity must be extraordinary. TCH, His Majesty is gone, why are you still there trying to flatter you?" This extremely dramatic and reversal scene made everyone present unable to help but start discussing. Especially the big men who had been shouting the loudest before were all silent at this moment, not even daring to take a breath. They despaired of their next fate. At this time, another person couldn't help but say, "I didn't expect His Majesty to be so handsome and gentle. Just looking at it, he doesn't seem like a foolish king." As soon as these words came out, some people immediately followed, especially many women, and their eyes were filled with stars. Yes, Your Majesty is so handsome. You can tell he is not a fool at first glance. Those people must be deliberately slandering Your Majesty." I also agree. His Majesty was not even angry when those people insulted him just now. It shows that he is very gentle and not at all as violent and cruel as the rumors say. That's right, if it were me, I wouldn't be able to help but be angry. I also think that your majesty is not a fatuous person. He may have just been deceived by a traitor. All of a sudden, countless Yangu who were impressed by Qin Mu's appearance, as well as the group of melon-eating people who had too much imagination and random thoughts, began to discuss and unanimously supported Qin Mu. Because Qin Mu's performance was very different from the Faint King in their impression. They think that a Faint King should be tyrannical, unpredictable, moody, murderous, extremely violent, etc. He might even have a fleshy face and be vicious and ugly. He would chop off a person's head, take away his wife, and destroy all 9 tribes if he disagreed with him. But the reality is completely different from what they imagined. Qin Mu is unparalleledly handsome, with delicate eyebrows and regular manners. His movements are like a god descending to earth, like a mountain standing tall. And the most important thing is that although Qin Mu is luxuriously dressed, he does not appear to be arrogant or arrogant at all. Instead, he looks very approachable. Not only did he not order the execution of the big man who had an argument with him, he didn't even mean to blame him. This kind of Qin Mu completely overturned the image of a Faint King in their minds. Of course, what they didn't know was that Qin Mu was just too lazy to deal with such a small character. Anyway, Wang Xing will definitely take care of it. However, there are also more people who hold objections. After all, Qin Mu's image of a Faint King has been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, and it cannot be changed by showing his face. I don't agree with what you are saying. His Majesty just came out for a walk, with 2 stunning girls by his side. Isn't this stupid enough? Yes, this shows that His Majesty's methods are superb. The better he pretends on the surface, the more vicious his tactics of torturing people behind the scenes. Yes, this dear friend's analysis is too insightful. Ha ha ha, when you say that, maybe it's true. There are still a large number of people who still believe that Qin Mu's nature as a Faint King will not change, and everything is just an act now. The 2 groups of people began to yell at each other passionately. Eventually, the supporters began to lose ground and gradually stopped talking. However, this seed has been planted in everyone's hearts. Even Qin Mu didn't expect that these little things that he didn't care about would actually cause some changes in his image in everyone's hearts. Sir, the mansion has arrived. One of the guards whispered. I saw the carriage stopped in front of a house with a large area and extremely luxurious decoration. The plaque reads Prince's Mansion in 2 large, glittering golden characters full of jewels. The bronze door exudes a rich and simple atmosphere, and is obviously a high-grade spiritual weapon of extraordinary quality. There are 2 huge amethyst stone lions standing in front of the gate. They are lifelike, majestic, and domineering. They look like 2 real ferocious beasts, ready to devour anyone at any time. Even the materials used to build the walls are valuable marble. The entire palace revealed just one word. How? Very proud. Very proud. There are layers of prohibitions around the palace, and every 5 steps there is a guard with high cultivation. There are 12 black armored guards standing outside the palace, with curved swords on their waists, and they are mighty and powerful. Each of them exudes the power of a strong man. The guards guarding the gate alone are more grand than those in ordinary cities. It can be seen that Wang Xing has gained so much from being an official in Dakin over the years. Wang Xing took a look at his mansion, and his mood instantly became more uneasy. He swallowed his saliva, carefully lifted the curtain, and stood respectfully beside the carriage waiting. Then, Qin Mu stepped down from the carriage slowly. Your Majesty, we have arrived at my mansion. Wang Xing knelt down on the ground, and said in a fearful tone. Yes. Qin Mu responded softly, and then walked slowly towards the gate of the mansion. Then Long Xiaoxiao and Feng Ju also walked out of the carriage. Wang Xing hurriedly followed, serving nervously, fearing that he had done something wrong. The guards of the palace had already been greeted in advance. Seeing Qin Mu coming in, they all knelt down and saluted, saying in unison, Your Majesty. Qin Mu ignored them, but continued to walk into the palace. Wang Xing glanced at the servant who had returned to the mansion in advance, and the servant nodded gently. The stone in Wang Xing's heart fell. Fortunately, he finally hid all the concubines before His Majesty arrived. Wang Xian finally smiled, and he hurriedly caught up with Qin Mu, saying attentively, "Your Majesty, I will take you for a walk first." However, Qin Mu did not speak, but the little loli with dragon horns on her head jumped and cheered excitedly. "Wow, there are so many sparkles here. I want to confiscate all the houses." Wang Xing. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mi and Buletin Leng. Chapter 99. Long Xiaoxiu's words made Wang Xing's face turn extremely pale instantly. Cold sweat dripped down his forehead, his legs softened, and he almost collapsed on the ground. He didn't expect that he could defend His Majesty, but he couldn't defend a girl next to His Majesty. Confiscation. Does she know what she is talking about? Beads of sweat rolled down Wang Xing's forehead, and fell to the ground drop by drop. He felt a little breathless, as if he was suffocated by a python. After hearing Long Xiaoxiu's words, Qin Mu's mouth curled up slightly and showed a smile. He is worthy of being a good student taught by him, and he really understands his essence. Very good. Lord Wang, your mansion is not simple at all. Qin Mu turned his head and stared at Wang Xing, who was pale, with a half smile, and asked in a playful tone. Wang Xing suddenly felt like crying but had no tears. He trembled and reached out his hand to wipe the cold sweat from his forehead, stammering. Your Majesty, you are joking. How can my small property be in your eyes? My mansion is just spacious, but it is far inferior to the imperial palace in other aspects. Wang Xing came over flatteringly, and, this is what I spent half my life's salary to buy. Qin Mu raised his eyebrows and suddenly realized, oh, so this is Wang Iking, you have accumulated a fortune for half a lifetime. I have to give you a promotion and a raise. Hearing this, Wang Xing was so scared that he fell to his knees, shaking all over, and kowtowed like crazy. No, Your Majesty, no. I am flattered, and I really can't bear it. Qin Mu shook his head and helped him up. Wang Iking, get up quickly, you are my right-hand man, I must not treat you badly. I dare not. Wang Xing hurriedly declined. And Qin Mu didn't care what he was thinking, and strode directly to the hall. Long Xiaoxiao jumped and walked beside Qin Mu, his little face red. Looking at those night pearls shining with bright light, his watery eyes were full of the words confiscation of property. Almost drooling. Wow, this is so beautiful, that is also so beautiful. Long Xiaoxiao pulled Qin Mu's sleeve and pointed. From the looks of it, it seems that the whole palace is being emptied. Wang Xing was watching the scene with fear and trepidation, and hurriedly whispered. Your Highness, these are just some vulgar things, far inferior to the things in the palace. Long Xiaoxiao glanced at him, twisted her head and snorted, you are such a fool. Confiscation of property means taking back other people's things and making them your own. The things in the palace originally belonged to me, so why do I need to confiscate my property? Are you stupid? Hearing this, Wang Xing almost spurted blood. What kind of robbers' ideas are these? Your Majesty, do you usually teach her this? Wang Xing glanced at Qin Mu, and suddenly recalled all the stupid things that His Majesty had done. Suddenly, it seemed that there was nothing wrong if His Majesty taught these things. Everything even became reasonable. Wang Xing's forehead was covered with more cold sweat, and his chubby face was covered with shiny sweat. He suddenly realized that he had overlooked a more serious problem. He only hid those concubines, but not the valuable things in the house. It's over. It's all over now. Wang Xing was full of despair. At this time, Long Xiaoxiao stretched out her hand and waved, and all the shining things along the way left their original positions, floated into the air, and hovered beside her. Then Long Xiaoxiao stretched out her tender white hand and waved again, and countless treasures flew in front of her, piled up into a mountain, dazzling. Finally, all the shining treasures gathered together. Long Xiaoxiao clapped her hands with an unsatisfied look, and said with a smile, "Wow, great." Wang Xing's eyes were dull, and his sight was fixed on the blinding treasures beside Long Xiaoxiao, and he couldn't move away for a long time. This was all taken away. Wang Xing felt that his liver, spleen, and kidneys began to twitch. He looked at Qin Mu with a bitter face and said aggrievedly, "Your Majesty, these are my humble servants." Before he finished speaking, Qin Mu interrupted him with a faint voice. "Lord Wang is worthy of being my right-hand man. He is so generous when he gives. Xiao Xiao, why don't you thank Lord Wang quickly?" Long Xiaoxiao laughed, "Thank you Lord Wang, then I will continue to confiscate the house." Wang Xing. After speaking, Qin Mu took the lead to walk to the hall. Long Xiaoxiao ran after him and took away the things he liked without hesitation. No one knew where he put them. As for Fengju, she followed them, holding her arms with her two little hands, looking aloof. Wang Xing looked at the backs of Qin Mu and Long Xiaoxiao disappearing from his sight, and wanted to cry but had no tears. What a thing! He had worked hard to save his family business for half his life, and today it was robbed clean by these two living ancestors. An hour later, Qin Mu took Long Xiaoxiao and left the palace contentedly. Oh no, it shouldn't be called the palace now. Because the plaque has been taken away by Long Xiaoxiao. Even the two amethyst lions at the door were carried away one by Long Xiaoxiao and Fengju. Even the defensive gems on the gate were swept away by Long Xiaoxiao with a wave of his hand. The only thing that survived might be the two nightlight pearls on the toilet of the palace. Wang Xing leaned weakly on the bare door of the mansion, his fat face full of hopelessness, his eyes dull and blank, having lost his love for life. Even that fat body seemed to have lost a whole circle of weight. The weight loss effect is simply incredible. What a sin, what a sin! Wang Xing murmured and cried, with crystal tears streaming from the corners of his eyes. Even when his parents died, he didn't shed a single tear, but now, he actually sheds little pearls. Sir, all the treasures of our palace have been robbed by the girl with horns on her head. What will we do next? Wang Xing rolled his eyes when he heard this. He could no longer support himself and his body fell limply to the side. A small ghost slowly floated out of his mouth. This scene frightened the old housekeeper of the palace, and he quickly hugged Wang Xing's waist. Well, he couldn't hug him, he was too fat. He quickly hugged Wang Xing's arm and shook it vigorously. My lord, how are you? Our palace cannot do without you." Ahem, it's okay." Wang Xing struggled to open his eyes and managed to spit out a few words. "Hurry, go search for the people's anointing and replenish the treasure house." After saying that, he fainted again. Old housekeeper. And at this time, the Northern Army finally arrived in Zhangzhou County and marched to the city. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 100. I saw that it was a mighty, overwhelming black torrent, as if it was about to swallow up the entire sky. In those black torrents, countless soldiers rode tall alien beasts, with gleaming armor all over their bodies, like giant steel beasts, majestic. And at the very front of the black torrent was a flying boat so huge that the edges could not be seen at a glance. A heroic woman stood on the deck of the flying boat. The woman was wearing jet black armor, with a delicate and beautiful face as cold as frost, and a pair of sharp red phoenix eyes, revealing a heart-stopping itch. She just looked down, her eyes cold and disdainful. It was a kind of domineering and majestic power possessed by an emperor who had the power of life and death of all living beings, as if everything in the world was crawling and trembling under her feet. And behind her, there are hundreds of thousands of northern soldiers, all wearing strong armor, holding long swords in their hands, with solemn expressions and fierce eyes. I am the god of Jiangluo in the north. Now that the Hanjun is in power, the people are suffering terribly. Today I am going to attack the Hanjun and avenge the people of Mingming. Zhang Luoshan spoke word by word, and every word was mixed with supreme coercion and murderous ferocity, which made people tremble with fear. The war drum beside her roared, resounding through the sky. The leader of the northern army immediately shouted, "Kill the foolish king! Revenge for the people of Dan! Kill the faint king! Revenge the people of Dan!" The deafening roar resounded through the sky, and hundreds of thousands of soldiers raised their arms and roared, shocking the surrounding areas. In an instant, the killing sound was earth-shattering and magnificent, as if it was going to destroy the entire Jiangzhou County. The guards in Jiangzhou County changed their expressions one after another, and their eyes were horrified. "Oh my God, Zhangzhuang banner, Xiantian flying boat. This is the most elite army in the north. It's over, it's over, it's over. Are you trying to destroy Jiangzhou County? I finally managed to get to the position of the general who defended the city, but this happened to me. At this moment, the entire Jiangzhou County is probably doomed. I don't want to die, I don't want to die." On top of the city wall, the guards were talking and panicking. It was obvious that they were extremely desperate and could not even think of resisting at all. They have been at ease in the territory for too long, and they have not been trained by wars like the soldiers in the north who have been fighting against the enemy all year round. So both his courage and his momentum were down by more than one level. The people in Jiangzhou County were already trembling with fear and panic after hearing the rumors from the outside world. After all, no one wants to go through war, let alone have their families destroyed. Especially the common people beat their chests and feet angrily, scolded Qin Mu, and scolded Qin Mu. I just said that Qin Mu, this foolish king, will definitely be punished by the northern territory. I didn't expect this day to come so quickly. I heard that Jiangnan County has surrendered. How about we surrender too? Yes, it's better to surrender than to lose your life. I don't want a white-haired person to give away a black-haired person. Me too. I haven't married yet, and I haven't had a baby yet. I don't want to die. The people were talking a lot, and more people were planning to give up resistance and surrender to the north. Anyway, for them, it doesn't matter who rules the Qin dynasty, as long as they can still live in peace, that's enough. To put it more simply, they support whoever treats them well. The morale of the entire Jiangzhou County was low. From the generals guarding the city to the soldiers and the people, there was no thought of resistance at all. If you no longer want to be loyal to the foolish king, you can take off your armor and submit to me in the north. Otherwise, don't blame us for slaughtering them all and leaving no chickens or dogs behind. Her red lips parted slightly, and her voice became clearer and more melodious, but it also carried an undeniable courage. As soon as these words came out, the generals in charge of the guards in Jiangzhou County suddenly became commotion. Surrender! We surrender! I am willing to be the first to surrender! A deputy general suddenly jumped out, threw down his weapon and knelt down shouting. Seeing this, the general who defended the city gritted his teeth, and finally had no choice but to throw away his weapons and surrender, expressing his surrender. If you don't surrender, you will die. And surrendering doesn't mean anything, because Zhang Luoshan is right. Since Qin Mu, the foolish king, has nothing to do anymore, what's the point of them following a tyrant? Soon The generals and soldiers who defended the city chose to surrender, and Zhangzhou County, which was originally well prepared, was completely destroyed. They took off their armor and threw away their weapons. As for the ordinary people, they had already lined the streets to welcome him and encouraged him warmly. Some people even knelt down and kowtowed, expressing their willingness to submit to the north. At this point, Zhangzhou County was completely occupied. Zhang Luoshan waved his sleeves and said with a faint smile, "Thank you for your hard work, soldiers. Please take some training and start the journey again in 3 days." "Yes." The army from the north responded. However, at this moment, a scout quickly flew in from a distance and said in a hurry, "Report to your highness, 500 miles away to the west of Zhangzhou County, about 50,000 Qin soldiers have gathered and are rushing towards Zhangzhou County." "Oh!" Zhang Luoshan raised his eyebrows upon hearing this, his beautiful pupils narrowed slightly, his eyes were deep and filled with a hint of chill. "Which army is it?" The scout replied, "I don't know, but according to what the scout said, they should be troops from Nanling County." "Nanling County?" Zhang Luoshan frowned slightly. Nanling County was adjacent to Zhangzhou County, so it was the easiest place to send reinforcements. "Then the Hunjun finally can't sit still, but you only sent 50,000 troops, and you want to stop my northern army? It's simply ridiculous." She raised a hint of sarcasm at the corner of her mouth, then snorted coldly and ordered, "Give me the order. All attack. We must take over Zhangzhou County in the shortest possible time and fight against foreign enemies." "I will obey your orders." Almost at the same time, the northern army set off and galloped towards the west. "Report, our army has entered Zhangzhou County and has occupied the eastern and western defense lines of Zhangzhou County." Soon, a piece of news reached the flying boat. "Well, keep pushing forward." Zhang Luoshan nodded lightly, with no expression on his delicate face. This time she adopted a multi-front battle, with the first line responsible for occupying Zhangzhou County's defense line. Although Zhangzhou County surrendered, the Zhenbei army had not yet completely taken over. In order to avoid any mistakes, Zhang Luoshan immediately sent the Zhenbei army to take over. After all, if the defenders of Zhangzhou County knew that reinforcements were coming, they would inevitably feel dissatisfied. The other line of Zhenbei army went to stop the 50,000 Qin soldiers. To ensure that nothing was missed, Zhang Luoshan sent a full 150,000 troops. "Cover it on 3 sides and catch them all in one sweep." Zhang Luoshan sat in the center, waiting for news. Soon, news one after another spread into the flying boat. "Report, the Zhenbei army has clashed with the 50,000 Qin soldiers in the Jasper Forest to the west." "Report, the Zhenbei army has successfully occupied the southern defense line of Zhangzhou County." "Report, Great Qin's 50,000 soldiers have been defeated by our Zhenbei army." "Report, the Zhenbei army is gathering up the fleeing Qin soldiers." "Report, the Zhenbei army has captured the northern defense line of Zhangzhou County." "Report, the Zhenbei army completely defeated 50,000 Qin soldiers and beheaded more than 2,000. More than 40,000 of them were captured." Every few minutes, a good news came from outside the flying boat. When the latest news reached Zhang Luoshan's ears, the corners of her mouth curved. "Vulnerable." She let out a soft breath. There was no doubt about the victory of this battle. In less than an hour, they successfully destroyed the 50,000 Qin army. Zhang Luoshan shook his head lightly. "It seems that Qin Mu is really as useless as the rumors say. He can't even defend his country. What's the use of such an emperor?" Zhang Luoshan's eyes were cold. "Han Jun, your end has come." Then she looked towards Nanling County and said indifferently, "If the order goes down, the army will set off immediately to prepare to attack Nanling County. She is not going to take a break, but is going to take over Nanling County in one go." She wanted that foolish king to know. What is the price of bullying the north? Yes. The messenger received the order and left immediately. Soon, the Northern Army began to change direction and drove rapidly towards Nanling County. And at this time, the armies of the Kangyu dynasty and the Qianyuan dynasty have also successfully passed through the northern border and arrived in the territory of Deccan, where they have fully launched their encroachment plan. The news spread to Chang'an city like wings. The court was shaken, the ministers were in panic, and the people were all in danger. At this time, Qin Mu was still studying Feng Zhu and Long's tiny dumpling skins.